My good friend AH was good, man.
How are you, Matt? Unfortunately, we couldn't get you on the Skype. I don't know what was going on there, but I just want to hear your voice. That's most important. And so we got you on the phone here. So I appreciate the time. We have a lot to discuss, Matt, but here's where I want to start. When you found out after your win over Fyodor Emelianenko back in June that Bellator was going to do an 8-man tournament to crown a champion at heavyweight, and that you would be a part of it, and that maybe some non-heavyweights would be a part of it, what was your initial reaction?
I didn't like it at all. Initially I told him no, and then we discussed it for a little while, and because I felt that my next fight should be for a title. Anything else is a step or two or three backwards, and I feel like in the division, it's pretty wide open. But I feel that's kind of what the conversation that we had with Mr. Coker and the powers that be was, yes, I do believe I'm the best heavyweight in the world on any given day. I'm definitely the best heavyweight in Bellator. And so, as we kind of thought about it, the more we discussed it and who was going to be in it and what the layout was going to be, I kind of came up with a thought, what the hell? I'm going to fight these guys anyways, whether I have a title around my waist yet or not. And to be honest with you, man, I think that the light heavyweights that they put in are more exciting and more athletic and better competition. So I said, what the hell? Why not? Let's go ahead and do it. So I threw my name in the hat.
And you're saying more exciting, better competition than the heavyweights that are in the tournament?
No. Then the other options. I think that's the reason why they threw him in there. I think that a lot of times there's always the what if conversation. What if Bader fought a heavyweight? What if Mitrione lost weight and went to 205? Now we can kind of see, or even fought at the catch weight. So now we can kind of see these kind of situations come up, and if they happen to pan out, awesome. Then it'll be. So I think the conversation, I think the tournament, instead of being called a heavyweight Grand Prix, should be called a super fight tournament potentially, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of more a more appropriate name for it. But whatever it is, the fights as sure as hell will be exciting. I mean, I think Rampage and Chael will be fun to watch. I think Fedor and Frank is something that nobody wants to miss. Granted, it's a bit of a shame it's happening this late in both of their careers. And Frank hasn't had a fight in 2 years, so I think that's a little bit something that's a little bit unfortunate. But I think that fight will be absolutely madness. See if Frank takes him to the ground, how Fedor will do against Frank on the ground, how Frank will stand up against Fedor striking. I think it's absolutely fascinating the way they set it up, and honestly, for me to get a shot back at Roy is lovely. I mean, I think that there are some things going on in that fight that I can always point a finger to and say that's the reason why I lost, or this or that or the other thing. But more importantly, is I get a chance to redeem myself, and I think that's a pretty dope opportunity.
How long did you say thanks but no thanks for? How long were you out for and told them I don't want to be a part of this?
I don't know. A couple of weeks for sure.
Wow.
I'm sorry, a couple of days for sure.
Okay.
And probably 7 to 10 days, something like that. And
you were sticking to your guns here.
Oh yeah, for certain. Yeah. I was. And then it just took a little bit of time to think, you know what, man, because initially I don't like the idea of having light heavyweights and a bloated middleweight in a heavyweight Grand Prix. Because it potentially could completely, it could throw the heavyweight division on its ear and completely discredit all of us potentially. And that's not something that I think that Bellator could. I don't think it's a great gig. But in that aspect, I'm the best heavyweight, best fighter they got on their roster. So it doesn't matter to me who I fight against, how I fight against them. The thought is, at least my thought initially was that against any light heavyweight, a heavyweight's going to have to be mobile and have a real solid sprawl defense, right, and have good cardio. Because any light heavyweight's going to dive at our hips, try to dive at our ankles, and hold us down and get us pregnant for the entire go because they don't want to trade off with power. And that's what heavyweights traditionally do. So I think it's a wee bit of a curveball, but I think it also makes it exciting. It's kind of almost like training for Bader is going to be almost like training for Kane, like a lot of shot defense, a lot of sprawls, a lot of activity, a lot of uppercuts. So I think it's an interesting wrinkle, and I look forward to something like that. So, well, I say Bader as if he's going to beat Mo, but Mo and Bader are almost one and the same.
Okay, so if you had the pencil here, okay, so once you commit to it, they say, all right, you're in, I'm in, great. Would Roy Nelson have been your top choice, or would you have preferred to fight someone else first?
I think Roy Nelson is the number 2 heavyweight in Bellator. So I think that he and I going at it 1 and 2 in the first round isn't the way I would have seeded it. But, it kind of is what it is. And obviously they wouldn't have me fight Fedor again in the first round. That wouldn't make much sense.
Sure.
So, could I have fought Frank? Yeah, certainly I could have. And I think Fedor and Roy would have been a pretty exciting fight too, to watch to see how that goes. But, whatever they did, they did. And I think that my side of the bracket, which is Roy, Bader, and Mo, is the more difficult side of the bracket for sure. But like I said, with that being said, who cares, man? I'm going to get in there and do work. That's what my job is. And I'm committed to it. I'm already down here in Florida, training with Coach Henry and training with Coach Greg and Connie and everybody else we can get a body on. So I'm already committed to it. I'm already working. And it's just time to go put on the show now. All the conversation's over.
And by the way, do you get paid more if you're champion as opposed to fighting for a belt or in a tournament like this? Was that part of your hesitation to be a part of it? Wanting to essentially, delay you fighting for a belt. You still have to fight now 2 more times before you can fight for the belt and then eventually become champion. That's 3 fights. Were finances involved in your initial decision making?
Yeah, I get a kicker. I get some kind of an upper end to it. But to be honest, no, man. I feel that, like I said before, anything I do that's not a title fight is a step backwards. Mm-hmm. And that bothers me. I feel like I put myself in a position to go ahead and get like, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. But with that being said, I was a finalist for a television show that I was going to do. It was a reality TV show. And I was a finalist for it, and I was supposed to be gone for a month to 6 weeks filming the show. And something happened where it came up where I couldn't do this season. And because of that, I had to, when I was a finalist for it and I was expecting to be on the show, I did tell Bellator, hey, look, I can't go do this. I can't fight for the rest of the year because of this situation and blah, blah, blah. So it kind of forced Bellator's hand to have something else go on. And then since I know I was chomping at the bit to get a fight since I didn't get put on the show, then I think this is how they made it out. Or made it to work. So I can't really, I don't mean to get up here and kind of piss on Bellator because that's not really what I'm trying to do at all. I think it was put in a situation in which I felt like I should have had a title fight. I feel like if I didn't have this reality TV show come up, that situation come up, then I would have had a title fight and I'd have a title around my waist already. But with that being said, they had to work with my schedule, and I think this is the best they could have done in order to get me that situation. What could you tell us about this show? Anything? Oh, it's a pretty awesome show, Bubs. But I couldn't do it, man. Couldn't. I can't do it. I have an NDA, so I can't disclose it. Okay. But it would have been an absolutely amazing adventure if I had a chance to do it. It would have been really cool. Is it still on the table for the future? Hey, brother, I'm always on the table for the future. I got a personality that just doesn't stop, my dude. That's true. Better than that. That's true. you keep us coming back for more. Do you remember, Matt, that fight back in 2012? I mean, I'm sure you remember, the result and everything, but I'm just curious if, that was a weird time in your career because you were coming off that loss to Congo, but you had not fought in a year and you take that fight on short notice. What is the difference, and there could be many, between this Matt Mitrione that we're talking to and the one who fought Roy Nelson 5 years ago? Yeah, so there's a handful of things that I feel are different now. For example, but let me fix this first. Okay. I did not really take that fight on short notice. I was in a situation in which I was fighting. I was training to fight. I was preparing to fight 3 weeks later, Phil DeFries. Yes. And so I only took a fight 3 weeks earlier. That's all it was. It wasn't really on short notice. I was already in camp. I was already training. So 3 weeks really that's not earlier. So I think that's it makes it sound sexy, like, oh, you need to go fight a short notice, blah blah blah. But that's not really legit. I don't want to discredit Roy's victory over me that way.
Okay.
With that being said, I didn't fight for 14 months. I had 3 surgeries, during that time. And, it was my first go. And on top of that, anybody who's ever listened to me fight, ever, or my interviews, knows how much I despise that small cage. And Joe Silva lied to me and told me it was a big cage, so I would take the fight. And I find out it's a small cage when I'm walking in to get greased up to go fight Roy. And again, the reason why I don't like it, which I said before, is because it eliminates all of my mobility. It eliminates my evasive action and my offensive footwork, because if I move around too much, I'm up against one side of the cage or the other. Literally, it takes away, like 3.5 feet on each side, which is a pretty substantial amount considering the fact that, you're running into a cage versus open air.
And he straight up lied to you.
As soon as
Joe Silva straight up lied to you.
For sure, 100%. Because they know I won't take a fight in that small cage. They know it. That's the reason why. That's one of the reasons why I would always tell them what cage is it in. But we don't know what it is yet. How the hell are you going to tell me you don't know what it is when I'm your most mobile heavyweight, and I'm looking and I'm actively saying I don't want to fight in this small cage. But we don't know what it is until we figure out the venue. We just know the date. Well, that's some bullshit, man. So, and that's what happened. But that's the reason why, if you guys go back and watch the film, I kicked Joe Silva in the stomach right after the fight. Like, I literally threw a body kick and kicked him in the stomach. And he's like, Matt, I had gallbladder surgery. Well,
oh, my God.
Shouldn't have lied to me then. Like.
Okay, so you're basically saying, I don't want to make any excuses, but these are the differences.
No, those are the parameters of the fight. Like, the differences are that I'm a hell of a lot better than I was before. Like, Roy was very prepared for that fight. He had an uppercut that he was throwing that he had never really thrown before, and he waited for me to flare my left elbow out when I threw my straight. He knew exactly what I was going to do and how I was going to do it, and he capitalized on it. So that's a good job for Roy. That has actually been something I pay attention to. Now, every time I'm in camp or when I'm training, like, I try to pay attention to whether I flare my elbow out, and my mobility and my movement. I felt like I was doing well against Roy, and he caught me. Good for him. I overextended. I threw my head beyond my knee. He hit me in a punch that if I stayed within my own house, as in, like, I kept my head inside of my knee or my stance, then that uppercut never would have landed. He threw it, it landed, and he did a good job. He capitalized on it. That was also the first time I ever got knocked down. And I didn't really know how to handle it. I never really practiced that situation before. So I feel like I've become more capable. I've been knocked down since, and I've responded well. So I feel like I've learned some things from that. I feel like I have not taken much of a beating at all in my career. I feel like Roy is kind of like a rock'em sock'em robot, where he takes a lot of punches in order to give one punch. And I think that might have affected him. I'm definitely going to try to capitalize on that. That's for certain. And
you guys cool?
Friends? We're cool.
I saw you guys take a picture with each other recently.
Yeah. We're cool, man. We have no problem with that. But this is how we have kids, man. This is how we feed our babies. So, I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to square the record up. I'm going to punch him in his face. And afterwards, like, I'll buy him a beer and we'll be cool again.
Speaking of being a dad, and I'm not trying to make this into an excuse for the result back in 2012. But I'll never forget that day, because that was the day of the Sandy Hook murders. And I remember Pat Barry, after his win, getting very emotional, saying he just wanted to go home and be with his family. And I'm just wondering, like, it still affects me till this day. In fact, I just drove by Sandy Hook and I saw it, and it like gave me chills. I'm wondering if it affected you on fight day, and you was your mind elsewhere? Did you want to be home with your kids? Do you remember that being on your mind at all? Because that's a day that I'll never forget.
No, I'm just like a calloused dirtbag here, but no, I didn't register with me. Had no thought to it whatsoever. It was time to go to work, and that's all it was. Only thing that threw me off was the fact the cage wasn't a big cage.
Right, and you could tell right away, obviously. For
sure. As soon as I was walking out and getting greased, I was like, that mother trucker.
Okay, so give us the breakdown. Mitrione Nelson, obviously, you think that you win. Rampage Chael, who do you have?
I think Chael is in danger of Rampage's power, because Rampage gets like 260 or greater. But I think Chael's going to stay on his legs and out cardio Rampage. I think Chael wins a decision.
Okay. Fyodor Mir?
Fedor knocks him out.
Wow. Really?
Yes.
Wow. Early?
Fedor is extremely yeah, possibly. Fedor is extremely quick, and I don't think Frank's takedowns are good enough to get Fedor. I think Fedor won't be afraid to go to the ground with him because I think that Fedor is just kind of built that way. But I think Fedor knocks him out.
Bader Mo?
Bader.
Okay. And then it's you versus Bader. Obviously, you're picking yourself. And then we've got Fedor, and you picked Rampage, right?
I picked Chael.
Oh, okay. So wow. So Fedor versus Chael. That would be hilarious. Who do you have in that?
I'd say same as everybody else, buddy. I have Fedor.
Wow. So we're gonna get Fedor versus Mitrione too.
For the title, brother, the way it should have been the first time.
Wow, that would be incredible.
But I will tell you this much. I think Chael will make a spectacle out of that fight, not just with his words, but I think Chael will take that challenge extremely seriously.
Sure.
I think that he will be in there. I think Chael versus Fedor will be the best Chael we've seen.
Wow, interesting. Okay, well, he certainly said a lot about him, so it would be time to put up or shut up. So to recap, you're at peace with this whole thing. You're okay with it. You're going to move forward. You're going to win that belt. No hard feelings.
No hard feelings, brother. Like we all talked about it. They understood my position on it, and we came to an agreement.
So the first round, or the first fight, I should say, of the first round is January 20th. Your fight is February 16th, Bellator 194, Mohegan Sun, Matt Mitrione versus Roy Nelson 2. My one request, and I know this isn't really, your department, I just hope they don't drag it out too long. When you have these tournaments that go, a year and a half, they kind of lose some momentum. I want the semifinals to be on the same night, right? I get why they wanted to stretch it out, especially the suspension to Mir, but let's not drag this thing out to where it kind of loses a bit of a momentum. You know what I mean?
I could not agree more. I really wish they did the first round in the same night.
I couldn't agree more.
I wish they would do 1 and 2, get them all done, have that crazy excitement about it. That would be really dope. Really, really cool. And then go semifinals, finals. I think that'd be so dope. But I'm fine with that. As long as they consolidate one part of it, I think that's really what we're looking for here.
True or false, Rory McDonald somehow finds a way to enter this tournament?
I'm going to go with false.
Okay. All right.
Go
Fair
with false on that one.
All right.
But I know there's another person that's kind of chiming in to try to get in also.
Who, Big Shane?
Big Shane.
Possible?
If it is, obviously anybody he fights is going to be saying, "Oh, they want a drug test." That's for certain. If he can pass that, then I think anybody would be cool with fighting him. But I think that's going to be a major conversation. I believe. Just let me throw this out there. Okay. I believe if anybody fights an MMA fight with steroids or anabolics in their system, they should be charged with attempted murder. If the fight actually goes on, they should be charged with attempted murder.
Wow. That's a big statement.
Yeah.
That's a
hell of a, but how is it not accurate? Steroids affect everything, not just muscles. They affect cardio. They affect squeezing strength, punching strength. If you know how to utilize it, then it's really dangerous. But steroids affect cardio positively because you increase the amount of hematocrit you have. The amount of oxygen that your red blood cells carry, it increases everything across the board. If you fight with anabolic steroids in your system, if you actually have the fight, if it's consummated, and you get popped, you should be charged with attempted murder.
Holy smokes. Of all the fights you've had, how many of the opponents that you faced do you think were on some kind of PED, some kind of steroid? You think over 50%? You think 90%, 100%?
No, I don't think so, man. I don't. Honestly, I really, maybe I'm shockingly naive, but I don't think a lot of heavyweights need them. Huh. I think heavyweights might take them so they look sexier, right? But I don't think they take them because they need them. And if they do, they're mental midgets anyways. I think a lot of the smaller dudes have to take steroids to keep the weight on. Otherwise, they'd be small enough fighting at smaller weight classes. For example, no, I don't want to throw an example out there, but I feel that, but I feel that there's a situation in which that, like I said, if you fight with anabolics in your system, attempted murder charge if you get caught.
What is boy, would that change the landscape of the sport if that was an actual real thing. I don't think it would ever become a thing, but much respect for saying it. And I know it would scare. I would hope that it would scare a lot of fighters into taking it.
For sure. And that's another thing too, man. Hey, I'm extremely vocal about not taking anabolics and doing anything else. So I can get drug tested any given time by anybody. Like I couldn't care less.
Sure.
And so I feel like I'm one of the best in the world without anything. So I feel like if you're going to be one of the best in the world and you're going to try to chime in and get your name in the paper, well, come dance on my dance floor and we'll have a great time. But let's do it drug free and give the fans a show.
You are one of a kind, Matt. We could go on for hours. We do have to say goodbye now. I'm happy that you're part of the tournament. Best of luck in the first round, February 16th. Mohegan Sun, Uncasville, the rematch against Roy Nelson. And I do agree, two favorites right now. I think it's hard to argue against that. So it's interesting that you guys are meeting in the first round. But hey, maybe you get rid of the toughest opponent and then it's smooth sailing as the rest of the tournament plays out. Great to catch up, Matt. Thank you very much. Happy holidays if we don't speak. And again, best of luck in preparation for the 16th of February.
Well, thanks, brother. Appreciate the effort, buddy.
All right, there he is. Matt Mitrione stopping by. Great stuff as always from him.